So I'm going to do a magic show. Oh, inspirational. Okay, fine. I'd like to start by asking people how many people here are in some sort of a relationship. I would hope all the hands go up, right? We don't realize how important relationships are, and more importantly, how they impact us as leaders. One of the things I realized very early on, so I'm originally from India, came here in second grade, started school where I learned A's for Apple, and there was a teacher who was kind enough, we came here on Memorial Day weekend, who stayed in the summer to teach us English. I'll never forget her name, Mrs. Schwartz, nor will I forget her feelings that she had towards teaching us. At the same time, I learned quite a bit about relationships being new to America. One of the things was what not to do. So as I was going to school, I thought going, as they say, against the grain was okay. Well, needless to say, probably for about the first 2-3 years of my education, my parents would have to come and pick me up in the principal's office. I was blaming it on English as a second language, but my parents knew better. It was probably the fact that I quite hadn't learned as a young child how important relationships are. So getting into fights with students isn't really the right way to have relationships. Now that seems obvious to us as we grow older, but at the time it didn't seem like I was doing that. So I fast forward and I go into high school and I realize, I go, okay, that's not working for me, so what do I do now? Well, parents had always taught me that it's important to help people. What a simple message. Help people. I've heard different messages tonight about helping people. So I said, you know what, let me help people in high school. And I did. I did the best that I could with whatever I could. But how important relationships are came to me, it hit home 30 years later. I was recently at my high school reunion, and a person comes up to me and he says, Nitai. I said, yes, because of course we all look the same from 30 years ago, right? So he says, it's Bruce. I'm like, Bruce who? Gives me his last name. I go, oh my God, it's been 30 years. He goes, I just wanted to say thank you. I said, for what? He said, you helped me through math class in 12th grade. And I didn't realize back then how much people remember how much you helped them until 30 years later. Although I had kept following that path, and we'll get to that in a second, imagine what our kids that are here or our kids that we have that are younger can do to make an impact on people's lives that they may never find out about. That it'll take years for the other people to kind of realize that, you know what, I had somebody in my life, whether it was a teacher or a student, who had an impact on their lives from many, many years from before. Well, I took that from high school on to college, and I realized that as long as relationships are working, let me try to continue building relationships. And the relationships that I built were all professional. Of course, we're all selfish. And I realized if I build professional relationships, of course they're going to help me. They'll help me in my business. They'll help me as a leader within my own organization. And it did. But what I realized is after about, say, 5, 10, 15 years is those relationships, they didn't really feel satisfying. And why is that? Because those relationships are built on something that only we want. It isn't until that one thank you that I received at a 30-year reunion felt a lot more satisfying than the professional relationships I had been built for so many years. So I realized that back in about 2008, to start to have an impact on our relationships, what can we do as a community to make difference in our relationships with everybody every day so that they feel like they're important? And this is where I think communities can come together, whether it's day-to-day with our kids, whether it's day-to-day with the people that we work with, whether it's day-to-day with the people that we meet in the supermarket. This is where our leadership comes in, and we feel that leadership is only meant for people that are in organizations that are leading people. But at every moment, at a minimum, you are leading yourself. At every moment, you are somewhere and somebody's watching how you behave and what you do. And that leadership ability comes with you no matter where you go. So as I explain this to students that I go to campuses and speak, I tell them that you're just starting your career. But you have no idea how many lives you can change. You're going to have your day-to-day career anyway. But how many lives are you going to impact because of the way that you behave, because of the way that you think, because of the way that you help others? And we know what's going on in our political system and things going on in the world. Imagine if those just two people, and I won't name them, if they had a great relationship. But obviously they don't, so one wants to flare off, and the other one wants to say that, you know, America's number one. If just two people talked, what would it do? Imagine how, if two people in our lives that we have a disagreement with, us and somebody else, if we just talked, what a difference it would make. And the conversations don't need to be long. They don't have to be complicated. They're simple. Sometimes it's a simple hello. Sometimes it's a simple sorry. Sometimes it's a thank you. But the important part is that communication doesn't break down. So what I'd like to offer up to everybody that's here tonight is, who's one person that you can talk to call, to make a difference in our community? Whether we're students, whether we're parents, whether we're teachers, whether we are in other professions, we are doing those things on a day-to-day basis because that's our job. But first and foremost, we are leaders. And by leaders, relationships are why people follow us. So if there's one person you can call, I encourage you, go out there and make that call when you leave here tonight. Thank you.